What was supposed to be the next big thing, but totally flopped. Amazon's shopping buttons. They pushed really hard for those, and I never saw the point. They originally announced those on April 1st. They said it wasn't an April Fool's joke, but I'm still skeptical. I saw plenty of social media posts from people saying, hey, this is a joke, but I kind of want it. I think Amazon saw those and took a shot at making it a real product. I bought one for toilet paper and put it in the cabinet where I keep spare rolls. You take the last roll out, you press the button. It actually kinda worked. You didn't push the button until the last roll. What a duck in Madlid. Crystal Pepsi, New Coke, orange juice and toothpaste flavored Lay's potato chips. Edit for correct Pepsi variant. Connie 2012. What? Sharing a video on Facebook doesn't end the use of child soldiers. Apparently neither does putting up stickers all over your neighborhood. Not entirely relevant, but I liked the trend where everybody wanted the smallest cell phone possible. For 20 years cell phones got smaller and smaller, often being the main selling point of the phone. Then all of a sudden you could watch videos on your phone. And almost overnight the trend reversed to larger is better. Now I want to watch Zoolander. His phone was hilariously small. My friend who studies medicine had to install Second Life about 2 years ago for a class meeting. I don't get why they couldn't have used Skype, but okay. As a CS student I wonder WTF Second Life was doing on all the lab PCs. I thought it was some kind of joke until people with PhDs started talking about how great of a collaboration tool it was. It wasn't. McDonald's pizza. The issue here was time. The pizzas were actually a huge hit. The issue was how long it took them to cook relative to everything else. One person in a family orders a pizza and everyone else is done eating before the pizza is done. Source: former slave to the golden arches. Soap shoes. These were like normal shoes, but you could grind on rails with them via an indent in the sole. If you heard of these things from somewhere that wasn't Sonic Adventure 2, please tell me where. And please tell me where I can buy a pair. I had a pair of these, and they were deadly around stairs. The indented arch was a slippery smooth hard plastic, and I never realized how much I placed the arch of my foot on the edge of each stair when descending them. Without fail, my first step on any stairs would result in my foot shooting out from under me. Man, I remember as a kid seeing the Ninja Turtles and Dick Tracy use videocoms and thinking it was so cool and wanting one for myself, and now if someone FaceTimes me, I have a panic attack. When someone video calls me, I stare at my phone thinking I wonder what they want and put my phone away. If it's really important they'll text me. It's never been really important. Not sure if this one has totally flopped yet, but I noticed while in Costco the other day that there are no longer any curved TVs. If Costco is no longer carrying them, then I think we can assume they're going the way of the dodo. And yet curved monitors are popular right now. Must be the viewing angle is better if it's just one person. Exactly. At the focal point, they reproduce colors better than a flat monitor. These screens are small enough, relatively speaking, that you can only have one person truly at the focal point. Everybody else on the couch is getting a worse experience than if it was just flat. Mini disc. To be honest, I miss mini discs. They were great. And the satisfying mechanical click you'd hear whenever you shut the lid. Man, I miss my mini disc. I gave it away to one of my high school buddies. From what I've gathered in this thread, Google threw a lot of shit to see if it would stick laughing my butt off. That's basically their business model. I read somewhere, ages ago, that Google was willing to try just about anything their people put out there, and if it didn't look like it was going to be $1 billion return, they'd can it and move on. Also, a lot of things they cancel have features that end up in their mainstream projects, like the conversation view, mail categories, trip thing, snoozing from inbox are all just part of Gmail now. I was at a conference about 12 years ago. Google presented a trial they were running in Africa because there was still very low percentage of smartphones and internet. So they had a call-in service where people could call a number and ask for information in their local dialect. The operator would Google search it in English and translate the answer back to them in their native language. Google was supposed to be the answer to Facebook. That was a lesson on how not to handle hype. There was so much hype around Google+. It was infectious. But they refused to open it up to everyone and maintained a very hardline invite-only system. Even once hype had peaked and there was a notable decline, still they maintained a small invite-only system. I remember by the time they decided to open it up to everyone, the hype was well and truly dead and no one bothered with it. They should have cashed in when hype was high, but they, I assume, got greedy, thinking the hype would just infinitely increase and people wouldn't get bored waiting to get in. And then they tried to force it upon everyone by integrating it with YouTube. Your Google account was essentially your Google account. People were understandably pissed. It was frustrating because it at the time forced you to use your real name on all YouTube comment stuff. Was insane. Movie Pass. I sure got my money's worth while it was around. I never watched more movies in a month than when I had Movie Pass. Such a horribly consumer-friendly concept that was never going to work long term. Unfortunately, after I ended my subscription, they signed me back up at least 2 more times without my consent. But I caught on and cancelled before they got any more of my money. I got it when I had a 9-5 job, then did an overpass shift on Friday night. There was a couple hours in between, but not enough to make it worthwhile to go home. Would go catch a movie every Friday. Would randomly grab whatever was playing. There was a couple hours in between, but not enough to make it worthwhile to go home. Would go catch a movie every Friday. Would randomly grab whatever was playing. I actually really miss that part of movie theaters. I saw Hardcore Henry over a long lunch break because of randomly walking to a theater by my job to see what was playing. 3D TV. Heard a stat from one of the 3D TV manufacturers that the average number of pairs of 3D glasses sold per 3D television was a number very much smaller than 1. I think they were too embarrassed to actually tell everyone how tiny the attach rate was. Can confirm sort of. Best Buy went all in on 3D TV and it flopped hard. Enough so by the time it was dying down they were having manufacturer deals where you could get 4 pairs of glasses free with every TV, just so the manufacturers could clear out stock and be able to claim that adoption was rising. Still didn't work. I got a 3D TV and it came with 4 pairs of glasses. I thought this is just how it is because it makes sense. Today I learned you had to buy them separately before we never used the 3D function. Netflix had a third selection for a while and I'd always watch the nature shows. Pretty damned cool. Honestly. I also bought a few third Blu-ray movies which were also neat. Overall though, I think the world is just ready for true VR at this point. Once it is comfortable, affordable, and accessible. No more optical illusions. VR and micro consoles in general. They're fairly popular with pretty niche audiences. Apparently the VR is a really good platform for emulating. But the problem is you can't really advertise a product that's really good at something that's in a gray area legally. HD DVD. Still remember half the movies being blue and the others red. This was gonna be my contribution to the thread. I worked at a Best Buy Future shop at the time in home theater and I remember all the 30-minute conversations with customers about if they should buy a Blu-ray or a HD DVD. Vine 2. They renamed it Byte. They made it a TikTok clone. The Dark Universe Cinematic Universe. Starting with 2017 feats the Mummy link. I cannot think about that movie without remembering when they accidentally released an incomplete trailer. Best movie trailer ever. For those curious, link. Edit laughing my butt off, this blew up. Thanks for all the rewards. I remember watching it when it first debuted and was so intrigued by the purposeful eerie effect without music. And then the bird hits the pilot. And I'm like, oh, they ducked up. Just that stock who I wore. From the pilot. WTF. Quadraphonic entertainment systems in the early 1970s were supposed to replace stereophonic systems. Now they are chiefly remembered for inspiring the name of the Who's second rock opera. This one might be a bit obscure, just because I've only ever met one other person familiar with it. But Google's Project Era modular smartphone was looking like it could have been the end all be all of smartphones, based off the Phonoblock's idea of having a Lego-like hot swappable module phone. The idea was that you could switch out any components of the phone on the fly. Camera, fingerprint scanner, even different quality screens. Conceptually, it really looked like it could take over the phone market, as it would lead to people not having to buy whole new phones anymore, but rather replacement or upgraded parts to a phone they already liked, thereby reducing costs and increasing utility. You don't want a phone with 5 cameras that inflate the cost unnecessarily. Just buy a 1 camera module. You want a 1440p Super AMOLED screen to replace your 720p regular screen. Buy one and swap it in. However, like many Google projects, it died off for myriad reasons and the long-standing era of $1,000 smartphone slabs lived on. Yes, I remember this. I was very excited when they announced it. I wonder what happened. I guess maybe because of comparability issues with multiple hardware systems from a multitude of manufacturers who have their own protocols. But damn wish they went through with it. Embedded code is pretty hard to get right when you're working with a single processor. I imagine it's worse when you want components to be hot swappable. Johnny Manziel. I remember when he signed with CFL and everyone thought he was gonna absolutely dominate. Man. Asbestos. Technically it was a hit, right until it flopped, when people figured out the whole inhaling rock fibers is not healthy thing. Not to mention that asbestos is damn near indestructible. Its inability to be broken down is what was causing the health issues. Google Wave. It was supposed to replace email with a more collaborative approach. Essentially it was like a dynamically created discussion board you'd share with select people and you could have a more readable discussion than one with a bunch of forwards and CCs and the like. I thought it was a good idea, but it flopped big time and Google got rid of it after a few years. The mistake was making it invite only like mail. Mail was a fabulous upgrade to something everyone already had, email. So everyone wanted the much better version. Wave, on the other hand, was a new concept. They should have been desperate for people to try it out and get creative with it, but instead they restricted access. The Panama Papers. Edit. Since I have your attention, I'd like to direct you to Isage's response here link. Our Panama Papers is still going, and sometimes they post articles about people getting busted. There's also the Paradise Papers. I think it has its own sub too. PT. Demo. This one still hurts. I know. That one felt like a masterpiece in the making. Google Glass. I heard one of the biggest issues was that it was too heavy and felt uncomfortable. But they literally couldn't make it any lighter. I think they also had serious issues with usability and headaches. That streaming service that lasted like 2 months. Quappy, I think. Even bad timing aside, a mobile-based streaming service at a time when no one could really leave their house, the marketing was just horrible. I saw ads for it for nearly a week before I realized it was a new video streaming service, and by that point was so annoyed by the ads and trusting everything I didn't care at all, just out of spite. Also, I mean, it was just YouTube you have to pay for and got worse content. Edit. It was quippy. It made so little impact I couldn't recall at first. It felt like something an old person thinks young people want without doing any focus group testing. It probably could have survived, or at least slowly die without the pandemic, but I don't think I would ever give them my money. Hoverboards. I remember in a span of 3 months everyone had them and showed them off, and then they just disappeared. Edit. After further investigation I discovered they were banned in my province a number of years ago. I always hate the fact that they were called hoverboards. The Divergent series. It was supposed to kinda have a Hunger Games concept and all, and try to be a replacement. The last 2 movies ended up being so unwatchable. Edit. If anyone is reading this and still gives a shit, I would like to mention another movie adaptation of a novel. The Giver. Book was great. Movie was terrible. It was almost nothing like the book. And if you read the book, then this movie will make you mad. Jonas is supposed to be 11, turning 12 at the ceremony of 12. Instead, they cast a third-kind 25-year-old to play a 12-year-old. So they bumped up Jonas's age to 16, which was dumb. The movie also got Asher and Fionn's assignments wrong. Rosemary didn't even appear in the book. Didn't she apply for release 5 weeks after receiving her assignment and was never seen or heard from again? Rosemary and almost everyone else was supposed to be 12, but they were played by grown-ass adults, so their ages got bumped up, which was dumb. If you're gonna be in charge of adapting a novel into a movie, then please actually read the book. Don't just skim through it. I'm reading this book again in class, and that means, yep, I'll have to watch this movie again. Segways were supposed to revolutionize travel and replace the automobile. Now they are just used for guided tours for dorks and tourist traps. Yes, this was mine. The hype leading up to it was intense. Like a year of promising something that would challenge how cities are built. No plots of places, just made them illegal on public pavements and highways. Airship travel. These were the next awesome way to travel long distances. In fact, the spire on top of the Empire State Building was meant as an anchoring point for airships. The Hindenburg kind of put a damper on it, though. Anyone remember the Archer episode where he was aboard a helium airship and he kept smacking people for lighting cigarettes and stuff, repeatedly failing to understand it wasn't hydrogen? LOL classic. Which part of this aren't you getting? Well, obviously the core concept. Lana. That moment of self-awareness was the funniest part of the episode, and that was a great episode. My favorite thing about the show is that it isn't clear at all when Archer is really confused or when he's just playing dumb. Every once in a while he breaks out in a moment of acerbic self-awareness that makes it clear he has absolutely understood what has been happening, which retroactively throws the situation into complete confusion. And it keeps a small but delightful bit of doubt around moments like these. Laserdiscs the size of records. The US version of Coupling. It was peddled hard by NBC to be the next Friends when that show ended. If I remember correctly, there was interviews with the cast and they were already musing about the show going into multiple seasons. There was big but, since it was such a hit in the UK, it lasted 4 episodes. You guys remember the Thief Festival disaster? Elizabeth Holmes. The Segway. It was supposed to change the way everyone lived. The invention of the century or something like that. A really big deal. Xbox Kinect. On the bright side, the Kinect ended up being a very inexpensive but effective tool for computer vision and robotics research. I think it kickstarted the current trend of cheap 3D vision, like with the Intel RealSense. This in turn spawned off a new generation of robotics and autonomous vehicle engineers. I guess you could say Microsoft accidentally advanced the field of robotics by years. New Coke. Sega's Dreamcast. Smart diapers. I'm pretty sure Pampers sells them, but imagine it won't be long before they are discontinued. It's an idea that's been posted on mommy blogs, childcare forums, magazines, news articles. Every so often I'll see a story online while doing some childcare research. I don't know a single parent, nanny, early childhood educator, caregiver that has or wants to use a smart diaper. The only way I could see it being useful is for night or for a special needs child. The idea is still being pushed as a luxury item for millennials, but it's just nonsense. What's even funnier is that the tech is almost backwards. Cloth diapering has become insanely popular.